What's going on, nerds? Mark here, back from Noisy Pixel. We have another tech video. Of course, we're not going to stop making tech videos, but we have a new brand on the channel, and from the brand, we have a controller. That controller goes by the name of Crush. PB Tails is the company. Thank you for setting this out. Always a pleasure working with new brands, and this is a pretty funky looking controller, so it was definitely intriguing me. It works for all consoles except for PlayStation. It does Xbox and PC and mobile. I don't remember if there was a PlayStation version, but they come in a few colors, and we went with the red Switch layout because I just wanted some funky Nintendo controller. But again, works for everything, works for PC as well, so it'll satisfy me. But without further ado, let's get this thing open. Wireless controller is going to come with a charging cable, rapid fire, Hall effect, triggers, things like that. Let's open this box up like this. Dust flap. Oh, actually, that's pretty funky. Pretty funky. I didn't expect that at all. All right, controller comes out pretty much just like that. Before we deep dive into the controller, let's just make sure we're not missing anything in the box. Just a bunch of cardboard die cuts. They give you this weird controller or logo shaped cutout with a hole in it. I don't know what they want me to do with that, but interesting enough. I think this is the cable here. Very inconspicuous packaging. Everything's like white and concealed. And then the manual or warranty guide is on the bottom. And that's pretty much it. Box on the ground, cable in a box. Come on. Okay. I was very curious what type of cable they gave me. I don't really know what's in here. Kind of going in blind. USB-C braided cable. Always nice to see. Pretty thick too. Not like that flimsy kind of braid, more like the thicker kind. But not rigid. You could still bend it. It's like that middleman. USB-A, USB-C. I think it's only 3 feet long, so not the longest cable. Cutting you short with the charge and play game, you know. Unless you got your own long cable, good luck charging it and playing. The wire does have like a little logo on the cable there. Seems to be a trend. Anyway, moving on to the controller. The great reveal. No idea what this is made of or how it feels, but there she is, the Crush controller. Pretty cool looking, if I must say myself. Feels pretty solid in the hand. I was actually worried that this was going to be kind of like a flimsy feeling controller, and feels pretty rigid. What I don't really like already are the way the trigger feels. Maybe they'll grow on me, but they just feel a little restrictive. Here's some clicking tests for the bumpers, triggers, the buttons, sticks, these like menu buttons. Home button. Oh, I turned it on. Lights up green. I like the RGB logo on the front, if you can see that. It's like blinking green. Not sure if you can see it, but we'll get footage of it. They also have this like imprinted like text inside the stick here. Very interesting. Never seen that before. Overall, pretty solid feeling controller. First impressions. The triggers, maybe they'll grow on me. There's something about them that's not my favorite, but they're not terrible. They're not terrible, you know. They're okay. I just don't know yet. Nothing on the back. Pretty clean. Matte white, very smooth feeling. I actually really like this part, the back part. It's like one of the nicer feeling parts of this controller. Although there's no rubber grips, something about like the material is kind of frictiony, so it holds well in the hand. D-pad is very silent, and I actually like the D-pad a lot. I don't know what this little nub button here, but maybe the connect button. There's like this little button here, and then you have an Xbox to switch here. But that's pretty much it. I mean, it's a pretty simple controller. There's like this T button here that's supposed to control everything by like holding down this button and then like hitting another button for a combination to do like RGB controls or stuff like that. But that's for the review, you know what I mean? So apparently this front cover is supposed to be like a magnetic hot swap, and I'm trying to figure it out right now. I think it's lifting off actually as we speak. I don't want to break it, but it feels like it's coming off. Oh, it is. Okay. Oh, we did it. We did not break anything. There it is. The controller underneath the true skin of the Crush controller. You could definitely use it like this. I mean, I wouldn't, but you can. Realistically, I don't know how many options or skins they have to choose from, but at least the option to do this is pretty interesting. I mean, it was pretty easy to take off. I think it just magnetizes right back on. If I can figure it out. Sticks, you gotta clear the sticks. That's the hard part. Oh, snaps right in, no problem. Honestly, really easy. But that, my friends, is probably gonna do it for the unboxing section of this controller. So stick around for the review. Our PB Tails Crush Ruby Red controller. This has been Mark from Noisy Pixel. Thank you, nerds, for sticking it out, and we'll give you the full review, full opinion, coming up next. The market direction of bright-colored, trendy controllers persists with the release of the PB Tails Crush controller. Surprisingly enough, the controller is based on cars, such as the Porsche 550 Spider, and more. This is a first for sure, and it was somewhat cool to see such outspoken subculture influence in the spotlight. Anyway, the PB Tails Crush controller retails for $64.99, with universal support for PC, Xbox, Switch, iOS, Android, but not PlayStation. There is so much more to this product that we will get into, but there are large trade-offs to be made from a major manufacturing flaw, or at least on the controller that I have received from the company that hinders the use in certain games. The PB Tails Crush controller has an eye-catching front faceplate to contrast with the matte, smooth white backing. The level of sweaty palm syndrome will determine one's grip to the handles, as I found the contrast between the front and back plating pleasing to hold, but some might find less friction on this material as no direct rubber or textured surface is on this controller. The front faceplate, in this case I went with the color Ruby, with the optional button layout for Nintendo Switch, can be removed by magnets by sticking your fingernails or something in between the cuts of the frame. It does seem like it will break the first go around, but I quickly got used to the detachment process and found it pretty easy to swap out colors if need be. A strong hold, but not too strong where it's impossible to remove, and not too weak where it easily falls off. In general, I would say that the major face buttons on the PB Tails Crush controller are subpar, granted the price of the controller, but it goes to show you where cost trade-offs can be found on universal third-party devices. The buttons resemble Switch or Nintendo button design and feel with a touch of Xbox influence, rather than the other way around. The D-pad is also rigid and clicky, providing a subtle low-frequency sound upon each press. Adding to this, the plus, minus, T, and screenshot buttons on the PB Tails Crush controller all feel very insecure and paper thin, which I thought this was an area for visual and tactile improvement. The logo RGB main button, although still thin, plays off its design more strongly and has a more glossy and thicker feel. Although the thumbsticks do share a worthy rubber texture, the use case for the sticks seem rather heavy, and seem hard to aim accurately for hyper-competitive play. These sticks do feature magnetic Hall effect for better longevity, but the structure seems to present itself with less dexterity than other controllers. Interestingly enough, the joysticks on the PB Tails Crush controller are removable and replaceable, along with the front colored plate, but the brand doesn't provide you with any spare parts or means on their website, as far as I can tell, to buy extra or different sticks. They do, however, host a stellar selection of extra color plates to choose from, and I think PB Tails shows its connection to the consumer as well here. I also seem to have a gripe with more buttons on this controller, referring to the main right and left triggers. They seem very spongy, hard to press finely with control. I would like to say that this is very much so subjective, as I have seen others use this controller and they do not share my opinion on the triggers, but they do not sit right with me. The triggers can also use a bit more throw or compression distance, as I find the click height a bit shorter than what is favorable. The bumpers on the PB Tails Crush controller resemble a bit more notably as Xbox 360 style click, with size and feel more closely related to PlayStation DualSense. The pairing button and Xbox Nintendo Switch toggle buttons seem very small, resembling more like reset buttons, but they do save space as intended based on the size of the PB Crush and placement of said buttons. For the life of me, I could not figure out how to manually turn off this controller, and I'm not sure if this is the correct way to do it or not, but you can hold down the pairing button and click the operations button, which is the top button on the right. It's either going to be X or Y depending on your layout, and magically the controller turns off. The user manual is a bit confusing and disorganized as well, and the complex nature of universal hardware didn't help this case, so something as simple as powering down was a nuisance to my user experience. The Crush controller does have a built-in sleep timer though after sitting idle for about 5 minutes. Pun fully intended, the RGB is probably the brightest feature on the Crush controller. Yes, better than the 360-degree haptic feedback or Hall effect. The lighting customization, color placement goes a long way. The brand logo pops, the strip light is a nice touch, and the best part, the individualized lights on the main button pad. The PB Tails Crush controller steps it up again, as it already has presets built in to match Xbox or Switch colors to make the universal nature of this controller come to life, and the RGB lights have nice color saturation to luminance ratio. You can also alter the lumens of the onboard lights with settings of low, medium, and high. The high setting does not disappoint, shining powerfully with vibrant tones. If the default RGB colors on the PB Crush controller are not your vibe, you can easily use the 360-degree color wheel mapping by holding down the T button and use either joystick to seamlessly select your preferred hue. It's a bit annoying remembering how to operate my ever-growing arsenal of Universal products, but besides the memory aspect, the usability of the invisible color wheel selection process using the joysticks is amazing and should be utilized way more. Nobody wants to stop what they're doing to go into software windows just to change RGB settings, and the Crush controller keeps you playing. This is not an original feature to PB Tales, but I think it hits hard being how nicely laid out the lighting is. If you were extremely particular about RGB customization down to every button, this is where an addition of software control would come in handy, but for now, there are no means of changing colors of individual buttons. For example, you cannot change the logo button apart from the right side pad buttons unless you use a default color scheme. Also, another feature you cannot customize on the controller is the responsive RGB lighting found in the strip when the left and right triggers are pressed. The RGB light strip strobes subtly upon press, but not subtly enough where it doesn't annoy me in my peripheral vision. The flashing light is cool in theory, but it would be nice to have a way to disable the strobe. Everything was butterflies and bright colors when first using the PB Tales Crush controller. I was playing games with a smile on my face, connecting the controller to various platforms, enjoying the RGB features, and more. It was then I discovered an extremely major flaw in the manufacturing of this product. I was playing Halo Infinite, a game where look acceleration is applied when drafting your right joystick entirely to one side. I realized that looking to my left was dramatically slower than my right, and after digging through the game settings, the game was seemingly unfixable. Turning to the PB Crush controller, I realized that after taking off the ruby red mag case, I was then able to normalize the look controls. Basically, the colored faceplate was blocking the joystick from moving entirely to the left, and who's to say how many controllers have this problem? On games like Super Smash Bros., the problem is meaningless as the right joysticks doesn't function as a way to look around. Same goes for non-shooters like Forza, where I thought the controller performed wonderfully. The funny part is, the problem was even worse than what I imagined, as on Fortnite, the looking around issue was happening on the right side, or alternatively both sides. What I learned from this is that the magnets in the controller holding the front faceplate in, or just the general fitment of the front plate, is affecting the magnets in the right joystick. The problem always goes away removing the front plate. I'm not sure why the left stick is immune to this issue, but either way, this flaw has really put distaste in my mouth, deterring me from wanting to pick up this controller as a main squeeze, which is greatly upsetting due to the uplifting experience the controller brought prior. A few more points to mention before we close this out. It holds about a 10-hour battery life, which will change depending on Bluetooth and RGB use. The charge time is approximately 1 to 2 hours. When it comes to wireless performance, Bluetooth, as per usual, has a latency. It doesn't matter how good Bluetooth 5 is, there is always undoubted latency when connecting on the blue side. To contrast this, the wireless polling seemed to respond much more favorably when using native 2.4 GHz on the Nintendo Switch, basically removing all placebo of input lag. The PB Tales Crush controller steps boldly into the hardware market with top-tier aesthetics, bright lights, and smooth style. Everything about this product wants to be liked, as it is meticulously crafted to please buyers for any use case, game, or experience. The RGB is seemingly the best I've ever seen on a controller, and the look and feel is completely unique. Unfortunately, as much I want the PB Tales Crush controller to fall in my hands when playing my favorite shooters, or as much as I want to get excited to hand it to a friend when playing a silly game of Smash Bros, the Crush controller remains unusable for high-stakes games or shooters with look controls embedded into the right joystick. I'm unsure if this is an issue across all of their Crush controllers, but until this is attended to, I cannot recommend this product. Noisy Pixel is giving the PB Tales Crush controller a D+. I would rate this worse if the controller wasn't so fun and quirky, and it does work as intended for non-shooters. Also, there is something to appreciate in this product regardless of its dysfunctionality. The company really had the right idea creatively, but needs more work to perfect the manufacturing. Thank you for watching. Noisy Pixel is a group of gamers who work hard to deliver news, reviews, previews, and more. Please subscribe to keep up with all of our future content. See ya, nerds.
Noisy Pixel.